good evening, everyone. Welcome back. For some of you, welcome to our sessions talking about AI for product managers, hosted by Indonesia Product Community. It is um, awesome. It is so good to see everyone tonight. I hope everyone is doing well. Um, if it's night, you had your dinner already, or if you're outside and you're on your way back home, listening to us as a podcast in the traffic, it's totally fine. My name is Richie, and with me we have Kashila.
Yes, hello, I'm Sheila. Thank you for all joining us. Before we officially start, we will introducing our community while also we usually begins once we reach around 30 people as Richie. Yeah? You can
Mhm.
start the deck of community that we will introduce about our community first.
Yes. Wait. So, welcome to Indonesia Product Community. So, for those of you who are new and who have joined us before, just to refresh your memory, Indonesia Product Community is a learning ecosystem for product enthusiasts, for PMs, and for people who transition or looking forward to transition into the product roles. So, we host weekly fireside chats, learning sessions, and networking opportunities as well.
Yes, thank you, Richie. And our goal is simple, build a supportive, collaborative space where product talents in Indonesia can grow together. We are very happy to have you here with us tonight. And also, if anyone is interested to be a community leader to Indonesia product community, we are opening to an application. You can scan the barcode in the screen or apply enough the link community leader for Indonesia product into 2026. You can scan the barcode for community leader in 2026.
Yes, so if you're interested in building the product community in Indonesia, the QR code and the link that we have shared in the chat box is the same. Feel free to apply, and we will share this again after the session.
Okay, all right. It looks like our room is filling up nicely. Let's get started. I would like to invite our speakers to say a quick hello.
Yes, so we have two gentlemen joining us tonight. Let me stop share screen for a while, and we will start with Matvey. Let's start with you. Could you introduce yourself and a bit about your background? What are we expecting to hear from you tonight? Screen and time is yours.
Hello, guys. First of all, just want to say thank you for inviting. Glad to see a lot of people joining us today. I'm Matvey. I live in London in the United Kingdom, so for me it's a midday. I'm full of energy to present practical tips that I prepared today to cover what actually product managers can use in their day-to-day work. So I glad that Razii with me today. So we shared with him this very hot and I would say complex topic. I tried to keep things more practical and suggest some hands-on experience that we using in the products that I'm building. So my background is like product design. So I started as a design leader, but changed my role to product manager almost 8 years ago. I've been leading the group of products for autonomous robotic factories here in the United Kingdom. And now I'm leading the product map. It's a platform for product managers with different resources and materials available. Most of them are free. Feel free to have a look. So for today, I'll share only what I'm using every day, what my team is using, what some other product managers are using, and share as some materials and helpful tips with me. Yeah, happy to be here. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. And yeah, hopefully you will have a good evening, even if you're just listening. But feel free to join our conversation today. Post any questions in the chat, or at the end we've got a Q&A session where we can address them.
Thank you. Thank you, Matvey. Razii, please tell us a bit about yourself and the work you and the current role yourself in the project world.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Hey, Shala, Richie, I'm
Hi.
Matvey.
Hi.
So, yeah, thanks to Matvey reaching out to me. That's why also this is happening now. And thanks also to Jess. So my name is Raz. I saw a few familiar names joining in. Uh, and then, so I'm currently pursuing a master degree in AI in business. And I've been also working as an AI product manager in the last 2 years in Sydney, but today I just landed in Jakarta. So I'm currently in Bogor actually. So I'm the same time zone with the rest of you guys here in Indonesia. So I also have a bit of jet lag at the moment. But prior to doing AI product manager, I've been also working as a traditional product manager in the last 7 years before that. And I saw that now that product manager is kind of become oversupplied, so you need to choose your battlefield, and that means that you need to become a specialist product manager. And there's a lot of ways to become a specialist product manager, and I think becoming an AI product manager is one of that pathway. So today I'll share a bit of introduction on how I usually approach building AI feature in my current product. That's all. Looking forward to have a chat with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you both. We will now jump into the first session. We will start with Matvey, who will begin his presentation. Everyone, feel free to take notes, and for the Q&A, we will save it until the end of the session.
All right,
You.
then I'll share my screen and let's kick off. So I started with a posting on the Reddit the question, and it took a few days to reach 40K views. I asked what people use as AI tools and what processes they automate. And yeah, post became viral just in a few days. So I posted it a few days ago. But as a starting point of my talk, I want to address that the topic is very hyped. We need always to put some structure to the way what we need to improve. I'm a data maniac, so I always trying to optimize some processes. And yeah, my background is the uh, processes automation, so physical processes like assembly processes on the production, and the same is applied for digital products, right? So you can improve different parts of your product lifecycle, and as a specialist, as a product manager, you can address very specific skills that you can gain in order to build product faster and sometimes achieve the better quality. So we're not just trying to build things faster, right? We want to build better products. And first of all, I always ask people to think about how do you understand the product management and what structure you put in your product work in order to structure your tasks and ways what you're doing. In the product map, we created the generic skill map that helps us to address and put the content in the different skills. I mean, we've got 5 high-level groups: product, customer, analytics, process, and people, and pushing forward very specific skills that helps you to grow as a product manager, helps to achieve the better results. So obviously, if you take people group of skills as an example, communication, team leadership, people development, then you are a better leader. So you are leading team, you help people to grow, and it's a very important part of our job. So we're not just applying AI, right? So we are still product managers, we work with people. You can optimize processes, you can work more with data to improving your analytics part. You can apply AI for understanding your customers and improving user experience. And obviously, you can improve the product itself, strategy, or discover new potential solutions. And that's a skill set that you can gain. Obviously, in the startups, and as far as I understand, mostly people work in the startups right now. So some enterprises are changing their requirements to the product manager itself. But let's take a startup PM as an example. We are wearing many, many, many hats, sometimes even more than we can wear. But in the reality, the requirements are changing because people achieving with less resources better results. Take any AI startups right now as an example, they mostly less than 100 employees, right? So that means that um, we should also adapt, and the ways where you can adapt could be structured first. So I prepared the list of what we see at the product map is a change because we do assessment of product management skills. We see how the skill set is changing in dynamics, and people as a product managers in mostly in startups, they take end-to-end ownership to of what they're doing. So sometimes it starts from strategy and overall business objectives and outcomes, and finishing with product delivery and launch, sometimes grow marketing. So it's not just creating a feature. So the scope is getting bigger, but the areas where we can apply AI are very different. So obviously, everything what is data driven could be automated. Some areas where you discover your customers and identifying some opportunities for your product also could be automated with different functionalities like deep research and so on. I'll show you some things just a bit later, but in general, everything what helps to improve your processes is very helpful right now and very accepted by business owners because it helps you to achieve more with less resources, and obviously that's an objective. So as PMs, we need to adapt to new things. And I think the key skill, which is not a hard skill, it's a soft skill, is to open yourself to new tools and workflows, try different things, and explore maybe some areas, technical areas, marketing areas, or I don't know, data analysis areas, or something else that you never tried before. And becoming a full stack is a very good, I would say, title because we, as product managers, we own the whole product lifecycle. So at least we somehow need to automate processes and workflows on any part of our end-to-end journey in terms of development and shipment of our products. So obviously that right now you can use AI for different cases. So you can prototype better right now. So with different tools, so with the ChatGPT, Lovable, Replit, and any other tools. But I don't think that it will be very practical for you. So a lot of things with the prototyping could be automated. But I try to organize my knowledge in a skill map that I started my talk with. So I'll focus on the people first. And for me, organizing knowledge, prompts, and cross-functional collaboration are the three areas where you can apply AI. So there are different tools that allows you to do that, and you are very welcome to try different tools. I don't want to promote any of them. They are not paying to me. But the good news is that everybody uses different tools in their delivery. So obviously, if you use Atlassian ecosystem, then you're applying assistants and I don't know, AI that is available there. But three areas where I'll show you some practical tips could help you to spend less time on very, I would say, common activities that you do usually. And one of them is obviously maintaining the product knowledge. I use Atlassian, I use Notion AI, I tried Linear and any other tools, but automation of release notes, requirements, and acceptance scenario sped up the delivery process dramatically. 2 or 3 times less time is needed to organize the Kanban board and your product delivery. So in a product map, we use Notion AI just because it's easier and people using it very commonly for organizing knowledge and also tracking the progress. But if you're organizing it well, then at any point of time, you can just generate your release notes with one prompt. I put very simple one just to avoid any complexity here. But if you're maintaining the knowledge in the format that is available for LLM, then some simple things like writing PRD document, release notes, or generation of acceptance scenarios or test cases could be automated. So whatever tool you are using, if you've got the knowledge stored in one place, then you can easily do that. The second thing that was very helpful to me is to automate writing. So obviously, if you have a bad prompt in ChatGPT, your writing will look like LLM. So I built a very complex prompt that I could share at the end of the meeting, but you can see it here. It's basically adaptation of different prompts that I've seen there with my own interpretation. So I tried to ban different words. I tried to put in the prompt what LLM patterns to avoid. And I've been living in Oxford for a while. Maybe that's why I put Oxford punctuation as a main priority for me. But from my point of view, building your own assistance for writing, it takes a few minutes. If you're not doing that, then just spend some time on preparation of your prompt, and after that it will save you hours every day. So based on my Reddit questionnaire, people spend most of their times on meetings, writing follow-ups, writing release notes, tickets, and whatever, which we don't want to do. It's a documentation. So we want to build products, we want to write code, and sometimes maybe even ship their products and prototypes. But if you need some writings, please automate that, and it's easy to apply. My first suggestion is to start structuring your knowledge in an LLM-friendly format. And I completely changed the way how I create documents and how I maintain the knowledge base. So instead of creating some Miro boards or Figma boards, now I write a plain text. And it works much better if you put it in the context of your assistants and agents that you're developing. But avoid images, avoid heavy documents, avoid spreadsheets with a ton of data. Try to keep things simple. So Markdown work best, and all LLM tools suggest to use Markdown, so simple JSON formatting for providing a context to your assistants. And if you check my previous prompt, it was just a simple Markdown, much easier to maintain, and also you can easily put it as a very let's say available resource to all your team if you apply the versioning control. And that's my next point. So what if you've got the prompt, what you usually do next? I suggest you a tool. It's called Prompt Optimizer. There are many of them. Sorry, just slipped the slide. Prompt Optimizer helps you to roast your prompt. If you still don't know how to write prompts in 2025, there are many guides available on prompt engineering. So we even got the guide assembled from community resources at the product map. But there are very practical tools. So one of them is Prompt Optimizer from OpenAI. There are many other models that you can use and optimize prompts for them. If you use Claude or I don't know, something else, why not? Roast your prompt in order to ask LLM what LLM thinks about your prompt. And usually it works well and like a simple recommendations where your prompt is not very clear, and even reformatting it to Markdown takes just a few minutes. So it's a tool. It's called Prompt Optimizer. Feel free to use. Just Google it. It's very easy to find. We store all our prompts on Notion just to keep the version control. So we build a canvas for ourselves how we create prompts, and all our prompts following very simple logic, which is a standard practice from different LLMs. So it's not optimized for one LLM. There are many of them. And we created, let's say, a library of prompts containing the general template that we use inside our team and very specific product management use cases with examples. So here's an example of the competitive analysis, which is done with the deep research. You can apply some results and outputs that you're developing, that you're targeting. And this information is the starting point for your prompt. It's just an example of the format. The complex prompt, it's more like example for our team. The complex prompt contains very detailed instructions, so you need to spend more time on what you're expecting and what format you want to achieve at the end. If you're applying it, for example, for agent and some automation process, then you need to specify the output. And for different PM use cases, we put the version, the latest version of the prompt that we are using. So for example, if we write some goals or OKRs, then there is a simple prompt that helps us to do that, and we keep it as a latest version on Notion. Obviously, the better version is to store your prompts in Git, and that's why my previous recommendation to avoid images and heavy documents will save you time to updating and maintaining your repository. But we store most of the technical prompts in Git, so the whole team can access the latest version and check the history of changes, and that basically the main source of truth that you can apply for spreading the information across your team. But not all product managers are using Git. So, I mean, my main suggestion to you to get basics of it. And actually, it will help you to build the automated agents and assistants that I'll show you next. But even if you've got the simple version control on Notion or Google Drive or in Atlassian tool, then it also works well. Just start doing that. What's the point of using Git and creating prompts there? You can create conditional prompts. Not many people know about that, so that's why I'm sharing these insights on this meeting today, on this meetup. You can apply different context in the dynamic format of prompts. We use Jinja format for that, so you can put some conditions in your prompt, and then your assistant is getting some personalized instructions, and based on the information which is available, based on the information available, you can get very different results. So it's a simple example. If you've got the project info, then put it inside the prompt. If there is a very specific scenario, follow this scenario, but put this scenario in the prompt. If some information, other information available, then it will be also automatically added to the prompt. So you can combine your prompt, and actually these conditional prompts helps to LLM to improve the previous messages and actually criticize itself. So you can create loops where one of the condition is to use information from the previous message in order to improve your next output. And these such conditional prompts are very helpful, so you can do that very simply with OpenAI or any other LLM. The next thing is to apply. So it's first with the people. So that's something that we use every day, and I think it helps us to save a lot of time. Next thing for us is to use AI for process automation. A lot of delivery processes like sprint planning or breakdown of your tasks based on the very specific roles, like task generation for front-end, back-end developers and designers. That also could be automated. I obviously spend more time on the automation for very specific processes, and sometimes it's a marketing process, maybe it's a sales process, maybe it's a product delivery process. I don't have many tools to suggest here. I'll suggest you some logic that you can apply. If you've got any tools, please send it in the chat. Please share your own experience, what you're using. The only one thing that we automated well was a simulation of different test cases that automatically basically test some product scenarios, and automation of quality assurance is very common process right now. So, but mostly all these techniques, they are around coding. So I'll share some tips that we do. We at Product Map, we've got a lot of content available on the platform, but we started as a Figma Jam resource available for the community. So people left their comments and resources there. And what we did in order to connect the Figma product with the platform that we're developing, we built an MCP server that helps to process data which appears on the product map Figma and prepare it in a LAMP-friendly format. In our case, it's a JSON, so we can put this information on the platform. And when we do updates on different topics, it helps us to synchronize two different products. And actually, we built MCP server, which basically a connector of one application to another. That's a very simple process how we need to maintain two different products, but there is no very specific tool. We use Cursor and MCP service to keep everything is connected. The second thing what we've been working on is automation your client database. So if you take your CRM as an example, in our case, it's MailChimp with different audiences that we prepared in order to segment our users. But what we did is to build custom agents that identify different patterns in our users and how they use our product, and also how they engage with our email marketing. So in order to do that, we just wipe coded a few scenarios that we've been looking for in order to optimize our client database, remove and clean up some inactive users, and keep only the engaged core users who are engaging with your product. And if you take the pirate funnel as an example, then we're always focusing more on people who are retaining and engaging. So AI agent that helps you to process this information, log events, and keep in your CRM information about your users and how active they are. It's a process that we fully automated and build a simple workflow that does that every day. Another thing that we built for a very different use case was to analyze different segments and where people are coming from. So it's mostly segmentation based on the location of your users. And we built the process that analyzes the data available about locations, and mostly we use SQL in order to segment our users. And again, this process was mostly wipe coded, but understanding how you can do that was the main priority for us. After that, as soon as you know what you want to achieve, you're just describing the solution, and the technical solution was not very important because the process is automated. Who cares about how it works? And what's very important, and where you can leverage AI, I think it's very important topic that I want to share with you, because it gives us a lot of insights, and I think that was the main change, how we started to understand better the behavior principles of our users and how they use actually the different tools that we are developing. So in our case, understanding the behavior of users was very important, because we are a startup, we want to grow, want to understand better how our users interact with our software. I don't know how you're familiar with the Microsoft Clarity. That's a free tool that I would suggest to you, but it basically makes a clickstream analysis of what is done in your interface. It provides you with a recording, what people do. And after that, what is very important for the automation, it generates you the session insights. So it's a short summary that specifies the way how user interacted with your tool, and having this text automatically for each session in your database helps you to build some insights. And you can process this information, you can store it in your database, and if something doesn't work well, then you set very specific triggers, and you want to watch this recording in order to understand what actually went wrong. So obviously it improves your quality. Obviously it helps you to understand better how people use your product. And the good news is that usability testing costs you nothing. So, but for each session, for each visit, you receive the usability report, which is very insightful. What you can do next, so if you've got some data and if you're applying, if you're storing it in LLM friendly format, then you can build different dashboards. You can analyze your retention and you can build whatever visualization you want. So in our case, one of the reports that we built was to understand better at what time people use the interfaces. That's in the midday, so you can do that. It's an example of the report that was built fully with AI, so we just wipe coded it. But good news is that you can analyze better your data, and actually sometimes you are limited with the different analytical tools that you are using. So obviously Microsoft Clarity, just one of them. There is Amplitude, very good tool, Mixpanel. We use Google Analytics and many other tools because many of them is better than having just one. But building your custom dashboards now easier. You don't need to have any skills to build custom BIs in Power BI or I don't know Google Looker or whatever you are using, like a Tableau maybe. But it doesn't matter. Now you can build your own, just wipe coding that. And what's more important, that you're not just analyzing your data, what is available for you. For the last suggestion, maybe the biggest insight for me was to apply LLM even earlier than you've got users. So imagine that you want to segment your users before you actually got them. Imagine that you still don't know exactly who is your persona and you want to define them. There are many tools that helps you to do that. Obviously, you can do it in ChatGPT or I don't know any other LLM. Doesn't matter. There is a very cool tool. I suggest to try it. It's called Synthetic Users. It helps you to generate different persona and simulate interviews with this particular persona, asking very specific questions about your product. So before doing actual product discovery, you can simulate the well-known markets and understand what problems exist and what needs may be available as potential opportunity to reach this market. So what you can cover with your product and what actually the segmentation, how it will look like. I think that was a main objective for me when we tried to reach different markets and when we've been developing different tools for different segments. First of all, you can try to interview your users and simulate your product discovery with synthetic users. It's free to try, so if you want, please have a look if it's available, if it makes sense for your market. The last thing, what actually is not well covered in terms of tools, is the product discovery and strategic impact areas. I sometimes suggest to try Zentric because I know the founder, George, a very great guy, and he is developing his tool in order to help product managers to cover the strategy part of strategy stage or step of your product life cycle. Obviously, you can use deep research. I prefer Perplexity in this case because it builds you a very detailed report. But what was very important for us, not just researching the market, analyzing your competitors and social listening could be very insightful because what actually is better is to understand what people saying on Reddit or any other social media about your competitors. So that's what you can do if you can structure your prompt in a proper way. And obviously, some ideas as a result of this research for organizing your roadmap or goal setting, it's a next step. So you just use the insights from the product discovery in order to create the next step for your strategy. So we put some assistance in the product map platform, which are very practical and based on the materials that we've got. All of them are free to use. We put some materials under the product map database about different topics, like unit economics, one of them. And actually, the product map suggests you resources and helps you to build your unit economics or strategy. And we did a few updates with industry experts in order to put these materials on the platform in a very structured format and make it available for AI in order to do that. What my suggestion to all of you, I don't know what is your background, so all people are different, but I started as a software engineer. And for me, coding, it was my first job. So I know everything about how Git works. I don't need to learn about full stack development. I actually tried almost all programming languages and trying to keep my eye on what's changing. But if you're not very well familiar with the software engineering, if you're not technical PM, then I suggest you to define your tech stack and maybe learn the basics just in order to understand what you can wipe code. So you don't need to know everything, but you can easily explain to the AI what you want to achieve. Because if you know that you can build CI/CD with the GitHub Actions, then you just explain to your LLM that you want to do that. If you know that you can deploy your app in Netlify or Google Cloud, then you explain LLM how to do that. And if you're using any tool, I'm using Cursor because I like how the Visual Studio looks like. So I like this interface. Then you don't need to think about the structure of your project. You build tools, use different uh, programming languages. I use Python, TypeScript, and SQL as an example of data queries. But in order to understand what your request for LLM, you still need to understand the basics. So my next step for you is to structure the way how you build your products in any format you want. So I suggested this very simple structure, 5 groups: people, processes, analytics, customer, and product. And after that, think what you the most time consuming task. After that, you can ask AI to automate that. And integrating AI in daily workflows is the main objective for me because obviously it helps how you deliver features. So Razii will cover the part of how building AI products, but actually what you're building is very important. How you're building that also very important, and your product metabolism, how often you deliver features is the most important metrics right now, because if you previously been focusing the product design sprint, which takes 5 days, now the whole product sprint from the idea till the delivery and marketing campaign could take 5 days. So that's why ideally you should speed up your product processes. And yeah, involving skills are involving, so you need to try different things and be open for trying everything new. And applying AI is not longer optional for other areas where you can automate your processes. I think that's all from me. I finished my part. Now I hand over the stage to moderators and Razi. Oh, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Matvey. Such an important reminder on how AI can help us boost productivity way more. Okay, now we will move to our second speaker, Razii. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Thanks, Sheila. Such a great presentation, Matvey.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I know that now AI tools have been lived breath by breath in product development cycle, but you gave me a lot of inspiration there in your presentation. Let me share my screen. Could you guys see that? Cool.
Yes.
Hang on. How to make it full screen? Okay, cool. So mine should be quick, and this will be, I thought I gave a title as building a power product, but this is a very short introduction. I had a session before similar to this, and it took me 4 hours to go through everything. So this one will be like a condensed version of it. And I'd like to start with like understanding what is the 4 stages of Gen AI adoption for product folks. I thought about this, I think, like 2 years ago, and I think it's even still relevant until today. So the first one is as a product manager or product persons, like just give them a try, really. Like I know probably most of you have been using ChatGPT and all the other things, but like almost every day, like new tools are coming out. Like some of the tools that Matvey just mentioned before this is I didn't even aware. So meaning that tools keep coming, and I think it's a good exercise for you to keep up to date with all the tools and just give them a try, because probably some of the tools that you have been using are obsolete and you want to try new things. Like for example, Gemini 3 just released GPT 5.1, and the anti-gravity, the new feature AI agent by Google just released as well. So all those things, just give them a try, and probably you'll get to like it, and then you can use it to the second stage, which is use the AI tools to solve your problems as product manager or product team, which has been covered by Matvey. And the third stage is use it to solve your users' problem, meaning that you are basically building AI features, embedded AI as part of your product delivery so that it can add value to your users and your customers. And the highest stage, in my opinion, as is like fine-tuning or training the model itself, which will require a very depth technology understanding, which I will not cover today. But then before I started with the third stage, I'd like us to come to the same understanding that PM's jobs to be done has never changed. There are two things of it, right? First one is we solve users' problems they feel it's worth paying for, meaning that if they don't want to pay for it, why bother to solve it, right? And by paying means it can be money, like subscription, or they can buy credits, whatever, or it could be time, like all the free social media platform, they pay us using their time and their data, right? Meaning that they are basically willing to exchange whichever we want them to exchange, because we are kind of solving their problems. That's the first one. And second one, of course, we are running a business. We are not a charity firm. So deliver business outcomes, meaning increase revenues and or decrease costs, is the second part of the PM's job to be done. And AI without AI, it has never changed. So then AI in this case is just another tool that will help it prove to be a feasible, viable, and desirable solution for the set problems among others. So it doesn't have to be AI at all, even though like there's a lot of hype out there, like everyone wants AI, your CEO wants AI, your head of product wants AI. It it doesn't mean that we need to implement AI. It depends on what problems, again, you're trying to solve and whether AI is the right solution that will help you to get to the business outcomes. That's the first principle always as a product manager. So then it comes to a point that we need to really understand the nature of the problems. And when I tried to write this presentation, I tried to classify like, okay, in terms of problems and solution, a pair of problems and solution, how can I try to classify them into different categories? And I came up with this four, probably more than this. Um, but yeah, let's see, let's get to it one by one. So first one is process problem. Like not all problems need product solution. Like you heard a saying, right? Not all problems need an app. Remember like the hype mobile apps, I think like 4 or 5 years ago, like people think like any problems, the solution is building a Android app or iOS app, which is not the case, right? Some problem, I call it a process problem. The way to solve it is just fix the process. Because in that case, if you decided to add a product or like some digitalization, or you added a features which is not necessarily, it may add complexity to the process instead of trying to fix the process. So like adding new feature to fix the process might not necessarily required. That's the first kind of problem. Uh, there's also the way I usually do, like for example, if some stakeholders come to me, okay, like Raz, I think I have an idea. Could you add this feature? And then you can ask like, what is the problem? And then sometime I figure out, okay, the problem is not the product at all. The problem is in the process. So you need to fix the process to solve that kind of problem. And the second problem is now that if we want, okay, then if it we filtered and okay, now we know that this is a product problem, not a process problem, there will be three types of that. At least as of now, it could be more than that. First one is a deterministic problem. Like I'll give an example in the next slide, but the idea here is this is a problem that you can simply solve using a heuristic algorithm or rule-based. Like you know all the patterns, you know all the combination of circumstances, conditions, and situation, meaning that you can rule out all the possibilities, so it becomes deterministic. If A, then B, if C and D, if E and F. So you can map it out, which basically a traditional software engineering, right? And the other type of problem is discriminative problem. And it is usually solved using like traditional machine learning, like classification, regression, or recommender system, which then we want it to be personalized in a sense, like every user that we treated in our platform, we want them to have a different experience, given all the data, all the behavioral information that we know about them. But then it will be a discriminative because a person A will always get the same experience the next time they come to the platform, because a person A is being surrounded by its own behavioral data sets or information. So meaning that we want to predict a kind of value for that particular person or group of people. And the last one, which been very hype in the last 2, 3 years, is a generative problem. Like one of the solution is like using large language model, multimodal, foundational model, whatever you name it, to generate content as a solution. So that's the idea, like content as a solution. Okay, let's go through one example here. So this is, say that we're working for a logistics startup company, which I did before. Like an example of a process problem like this, like return packages. If you send packages, right? Like there's like 1-2% of them being returned due to uh some reasons. And there's a case, for example, return packages go missing in the warehouse. And in this case, like your stakeholders might come to you like, okay, can we have this feature, those feature, whatever, to solve this kind of problems? And sometimes, and this is also based on real case, like when we go to the field, we interview all the people being involved, like understanding what's happening there. And then we figure out, okay, the problem is not a product problem, at least at that point. But it's because, for example, the internal return handling process is broken, like poor tagging, not scanning, inconsistent sorting, like For example, if we have five warehouses, all the five or warehouses work differently, different SOP, whatever. So meaning it's a process problem. Like even you add some like whatever robotics or automation, etc., it might not necessarily fix the problem. We need to fix the process first, and then once the process is fixed, we may be able to improve it using technology. So please be aware, like I always did something like that, especially if the product you manage is highly relevant with operational things. And for the second type of problem, like deterministic problem, say customers want to know delivery cost upfront. Okay, I want to send packages of parcel from A to B. I want to know the price. So probably it's a simple thing. We only have a pricing like based on fixed rate, based on distance or zone. So that's it. You have point A to B, A to C, A to Z, Z to X. You have all mapping. You don't need AI. That's it. That's the rule-based kind of solution to a deterministic problem. And we, for the third type of problem, it's now become challenging, right? For example, especially you guys in Indonesia, right? We have this problem with COD order, a cash on delivery. So people who receive the package will pay to the last mile delivery cash on hand. And there's so much cases where it is being rejected. So the question would be like the product question that you want to answer is, will a particular COD order be successfully delivered or likely rejected? And you can actually train a model to answer this kind of question to predict, like for example, given point all many points to point Z, the likelihood it's being rejected is this high. So we can train a model that can predict based on like the route, the type of packages, the price of the package, the value of the package, etc., all those behavioral information, and then we can predict, okay, this order will likely reject it. So then we can have a proactive alert to the operational team, or even we can tell the sellers like, okay, like 80% of orders coming to this area is usually rejected. Do you want to still continue? So that kind of problems and solution. I hope that makes sense. And the last type of a problem is a generative problem. So one of the example is, say your support or CS team keeps getting flooded with where is my package question, which is a very repetitive question, and user can actually do it themselves, but they simply too lazy to do it. So they just want to ask the CS team to give them answers so that being assured. So then we can think about, okay, why not we build a GPT-powered chatbot? And then it has a tool calling function. If user asks like, where is my package now? It will call a tool calling to check the API. Okay, the order is here. And then we can prompt it to give satisfying answer explaining to the user, etc. So instead of human replied, it will be AI reply. So it will then produce personalized response with context and not just an answer, a robotic answer. I hope all the what is it examples that I share make sense. But the idea here is try to classify and filter which problem that you are trying to solve, and then because each problem will have appropriate solutions on how to address those. Now, let's get into prompt writing. I mean, Matvey just shared a very good deal of information on how to build a good prompt. My approach will be a bit basic, but it works all the time for me. So I still believe that currently with how LLM technology work, like prompt writing, I'm not using prompt engineering. I'm not using context engineering because for me it's basically just writing. If you can write, if you're good at writing, I think you'll be a good prompt writer. And so this is the backbone of building generative AI feature, at least for now. And the idea here is, as a product manager, uh, this really help us to do proof of concept. So it has never been easier. It's just a prompt away, especially if we are addressing a generative problem. So let's ignore the first type of problem. Let's assume now we are dealing with a generative kind of problem. And so say, and the POC is simply to check if an LLM is a potential solution at all, which is also really helpful. Like if you want to compare like different model, like because sometimes Gemini, GPT, and Cloudy, they have different strengths and weaknesses depending on what type of generative problem that you're trying to solve as well. So this POC really helpful even before you talk to the engineer. And I really 100% agree with Matvey that now you need to go more full stack. So when you come to engineer and designer, you really need to like validate the problem and you already get your hands dirty to really get hand on. And I would say, which is doing the proof of concept itself. Okay, say we want to check if we can use LLM to personalize a welcoming message for a language learning app's onboarding steps. So let's do the PLC for this. But the idea here is for prompt writing is simple. You have context, you have the instruction, and then you get the output that you want to show to the users. That's it. That's just these three components. And so first of all, I'd like for those of you who have never been playing around with API. So if you've been using ChatGPT alone or Claude or Gemini, the chat interface, you usually ask question and you get answers. And that usually only you as the users and the answer as assistant messages, right? But if you want to build an AI or LLM powered feature for the users, you gotta have to access the API version of it, and there will you come across system messages. And this is very important element of building AI power feature because all the instruction will live there in the system prompt. And this is the interface of chat OpenAI Playground, but you will see the exact same components if you go to Anthropic Workbench or you go to Google AI Studio, all the same. So basically, this developer message is the system message, and then the pro message, this user message is basically the context, and assistant is the generated output. So the way I usually approach this for any kind of generative problem that I want to solve is, okay, I need to start with what I want. So I always start with the output. Like you know what you want the LLM to be able to generate. Looking at this, so start from the output, and then you think like what context that you have to get the output, and then you build the instruction around those two elements. So then in my case, like, okay, I do know the user profile, like name, age, job, location, native language, etc. Remember, this is a language learning app. And for the first trial, always start very simple, like generate a personalized welcome message for this user, starting the language learning journey, whatever, just to test whether the LLM will be able to process the context and it can generate for you a suitable answer. Like, okay, this is a good one. But then, for example, this output something that I don't want it to output because how can it like come up with visual one, visual two, which is not there in my product, for example. So, but at least I know that the LLM is able to process my prompt, my context, right? And then next, I will then tidy up the system prompt itself. Like Matvey show you a very good structure on how to build a prompt, but I always started with this very simple one. I call it RTOC. So basically a simple role. What is the role? Like for example, you are a culturally aware language learning coach specializing in Latin American Spanish variants and business context. So if you are aware, this is very specific to the context that I have for this test. And what is the task that you want this AI to work on? What is the expected output? And whether there's any constraint, like limitation that you want the AI to be aware of, like what is the maximum length of the words, or there's some tone of voice or whatever, right? And then if you see here, like the answer now, it's getting more closer to what I want it to be able to generate. And so this technique can be used to control your desired output, because the first one is just a simple system prompt just to check the LLM capability. But now I'm trying to control what is the output, which is therefore the system prompt is so important here. Um, because the nature of generative AI is it's inconsistent, right? Now that you have RTOC, of course, you can expand it to have all the things that you think is necessary. Usually I started with this, but then depending on what the problems, I kept adding, like I'm not gonna cover here, but there's a single turn LLM and multi-turn LLM call. It's also deal with different type of information that you want to add to the system prompt. But the idea here is by the time you get here, you can always add more section to the system prompt to better control, again, to better control the output. And then now that you have a good prompt that can process your that can process your context and generate the desired output, let's get into now the variables. So variables is technically you have a placeholder in your system prompt, like in this case, like target language, category, location, whatever. The idea here is you want to stress test your prompt, because okay, you did one with Maria, right? But then how can I know it will work with Budi, with Andre, with other people with different contexts? Will that still output the same quality of generated message or not? And the way to do it is, okay, now you want to standardize the system prompt so that you can change the value or the placeholder using some variables that is changeable. So then you can grab from your database like hundreds of them, and you can run the same exact prompt against those hundred of data sets that have each of the required variables like this, like target language, category, name, job, location, whatever variables that you have. And then when you run it 100 times, you want to compare the output just to see whether it still consistently generate the same quality of text. And if it's not to up your standard, for example, like 40% of the time it outputs some junk, so then you want to improve your system prompt again to get to the point that you get almost consistent output all across the data sets. And then the last one, I think this is the last one that is also important when you're building this at the end of the day is you want, so if you see here, the output is just text like this, right? But when it comes to implementing the prompt into your product, because you need to bring back whatever AI implementation that you are trying to POC, you need to bring it back to this to the system that you have at the moment, right? Meaning that your system back and front end need to be able to ingest and parse the data, and that's where the structured output come. So all the LLM like Cloudy, Gemini, GPT, they have this uh, JSON structured output. So instead of generating this free plain text, we can ask the LLM to always output certain structure in JSON format. like what is the welcome message, what is the explanation or the reasoning behind it, and some other key that you can add to it so that the LLM will always output the same exact structure or JSON format or the Zotsima, whatever the name is. And then it will give our engineering team the assurance that they will always be able to trust the output of the AI. Think of it like a contract between the AI output and how our internal system will want to consume it. That's very important as well, structured output. And this is my last slide. So if you haven't read this piece of writing by Lenny, please do give it a read. It's called a continuous development and continuous calibration. And in fact, all the things that I just briefly explained is only part of the first step, like scoping the capability to have the LLM and correct the data for the testing for the context itself. That's the first part. And after that, you want to like develop the app on how to integrate this feature to your app. And then you need to design the evals, basically know that you have tested it again hundreds of sample data. When you go to like 1,000, 10,000, hundred of thousand, you want to have an evals uh, infrastructure implemented, and then you can deploy, run the evals in the production. You gotta have to analyze some errors. Errors mean here like, okay, because the problem with generative AI is even if you give it the same exact context, you run it 10 times, you gotta get, for example, like 50% of different output, right? Like imagine if you give the LLM like 100,000 of different contexts. So the chance of it being offset, like drifting from the one that you expected will be higher. So you need to analyze it. You need to fix again the prompt, you deploy it, and this will be the continuous calibration. So all the thing I just shared is only the first one, but the whole cycle will look like this, which I couldn't cover in this session. But that's it. Thank you.
Okay, can we have some reactions? That is a pretty thorough material. What a learning we have today, everyone. So it's not only about AI and PMs, but also some structured ways of prompting the AI on how making the AIs can work and boost our productivity. And also have our day-to-day work, especially in communicating like between and to different teams. So, great insights from both speakers. We will now moving on to the Q&A part. We have prepared some questions in advance. But yeah, let me see.
Rich, do you want to
So,
answer a few questions from the chat first? Because I've seen a few of them addressed to me. So how you want
Oh
to do
yeah,
that?
sure. Um, let's address the already existing question and then we will move on to the one that we have prepared. So first of all is from Maury. He asked these questions when you present. I think you mentioned a bit about Microsoft Clarity. So is it the same as Hotjar in terms of service that they provide, or what's the difference?
I've got a question, an answer. So I mean, but they're very similar in terms of functionality. That's why maybe Mori thought that it's the same service. Obviously, they're different brands, and Hotjar is a startup. Microsoft, it's obviously the enterprise, and they've got it as a separate tool. But for everyone who wants to try Hotjar for screen recording, actually they are very similar. So they are competitors. What didn't we tried that? What didn't work well is to pull the data out of the Hotjar in order to analyze it for your own needs. So my first point was that you're assembling your product knowledge in one place. Again, it could be Notion, it could be the database where you store all this information. So obviously, with a growing amount of sessions, and if you've got then more than 10,000 users, then you can't put everything in Notion, right? So it's just too much for the tool. You put it in a database, doesn't matter what database you're using. It could be Postgre, it could be MongoDB, doesn't matter. But pulling data out of the Hotjar was very hard for us. So that's why we used Clarity and we put the agent that does it automatically. So it uses the structured prompt in a similar way how Raz showed, like the assistant, and our prompt pulls the data and tries to find some anomalies in order to trigger us that something doesn't work well. So if we deploy the latest release and we see that there is an issue, then when users facing these issues and when the agent processes it, it sends you automatically the trigger, man, you've got a problem on production, please react on that. So answering the question, tools are very similar. If you will find a way how to integrate Hotjar and put the information out of this tool, please send me an instruction. I'll do that because more analytics is better. So I'm a data maniac, as I said. So it should
Data
be
obsessed.
true.
I think Clarity will be better for a startup
Only
person.
problem with Hotjar is not real time, right? You need to
Oh,
It
wait.
yeah.
maybe it has some
Yeah,
delay, but yeah,
yeah,
it's not for alerting you immediately.
yeah.
But yeah, at least it stores some recordings so you can access them later.
Awesome. Oh, we will go back to the second question. Um,
Oh
but the
yeah.
first question that we have prepared, it's a bit related to what most of the presentation from both of you have shared. So maybe you can take turns in answering the first one. It's about the future of AI PM. So we know as a product manager, we have used a lot of different hats even before AI exists. What would you say about prompt engineering? Will that be a new hat that we will need to use? Or how is that in long term in terms of skills that we need as a AI product manager?
Raz, you go first. I think you already covered it partially.
Got it. So again, I mean, problem writing, I like to think like, so when I started my career like 2016, I really remember this feedback from my supervisor at the time, like, don't ask me question, like ask Google first. If you didn't find the answer, and come to me. And it really brings me to how I am today, right? And I think now with prompting, it will like all the same. Meaning now you go to ChatGPT first before you ask other people like to get answer. And this will become um part of how you deal with your day-to-day problems or even strategic problems. The only thing will different is the more advanced the model is, actually, I believe you don't really have to craft a very detailed prompt to beat your needs. At some points, you just like, as long as it has a very detailed context of your previous questions, all the information that they need, even asking a sample question, it will be have like how Google search can give you precise result in their first page. I think we'll get to the point where LLM will do the same degree of accuracy and in building the answer. So yeah, Matvey, you want to add?
I would agree with you. And in your slides, you also mentioned that maybe you don't need to put a lot of efforts to create the prompt at the beginning. I think that all these things like prompt optimizer and thinking about the quality of the prompt matters only if you're about to reach the size of the context which is available. So imagine that you're processing very big volumes of data and you're starting counting your tokens and how much you put inside your prompt could be very important to optimize because you want to leave more space for the information. But if you are writing the prompt, if you're good at writing and you're writing the prompt, then it will be okay. So next topic is to how you want to optimize that and actually do you need to optimize that? So you made this decision because of the results. If you're not a very, let's say, if you don't like what you received and you think that you can push harder, then you're starting to put some structure. So, and everybody uses different structures. You got your own structure. We've got slightly different structure. At least you've got one. If you should somehow organize the way how your LLM will react, because you don't want it to hallucinate a lot. So a lot of side effects could appear. So it's about calibration, right? But my answer is you don't need to put the rocket science at the beginning. So, but if you're about to reach the limit of the LLM, then you'll start to optimize your prompts. And there are many tools like prompt optimizer, or you can put your structure, or you can just trim the context and try to make it smaller and see maybe results will be the same, maybe even better. So
Yeah.
I would say don't overcomplicate things before you actually start receiving very first results. So start safe, start small, and fail safe, as always.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, the second question from me. In your experience, what is the single biggest mindset shift a traditional PM must make to success as an AI product manager?
Let me start first. So I briefly covered it, but if we've got 2 or 3 more minutes, then I'll explain my point better. So I think maybe you guys not familiar, but that's not the first AI wave in the world. So AI boom happened 5 or 6 years ago. Before that, it was 10 years ago. So it's not a new thing. So now slightly different tools appeared, but my previous startup, it was Graphica, it was AI tool in 2015 for designers. So it was like a Behance or Pinterest with visual inspiration. And I still own the community, which is 50K followers. Doesn't matter, but the idea of AI tools is not new. So now just information spreading quicker. We need to try all these tools. We need to adapt. So my personal feeling that learning new things, trying new things, and trying to implement them in your processes is the most important skill. You should be open for everything new, and you should learn faster, because I think most products, or I know most teams who are leveraging new opportunities quicker, implementing them, trying them, and see results. So if it improves your metrics, if it gives you a bigger revenue, then why not? If you spend less.
Hey, you're muted, Matvey.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Matvey, you got muted like 2 minutes ago.
Oh, really? Sorry, I don't know what's happened.
It's okay.
Didn't
It's
press anything.
okay.
Sorry for that.
So
So
can we
what
miss
was the
your
last?
last two sentences you were mentioning about?
All right. So again, guys, so try different things, try new things, because it helps you to optimize your process. If you think that something works better, improves your metrics, if your revenue is growing, if your team performance is growing, then you should always try new things. And what was the last word for me? You should be open for everything new. AI tools, they've been called like machine learning algorithms or computer vision algorithms 5 years ago. Now they're the same. It's just called AI, but the math is still the same. People doing the same approaches. Just the trying different new is the and to be open for everything new. uh, Identifying your opportunities, that's the most important skill from my point of view. So AI product managers, they see these opportunities and build things fast using existing solutions or their own solutions. So that could be a good starting point, mindset, I think.
Okay, thank you, Matvey. How about you, Razii? You can have an opinion.
Sure. Cool. 100%. That's why in that stairs that I show you guys, like give a try is the very first step that you need to
Yeah.
take, right? And for me, specifically to add on that is, so I've been a product manager for the last 10 years, right? And for us, like what make us struggle, like we like to build product, but most of the time we are like relied heavily on the engineering and design team to deliver. Like we couldn't really control what we can deliver, right? But then with this all like prototyping tools. Like I use Cursor a lot. Like I think I contributed like 500 GitHub in the last 1 year in my product. So the really big shift of mindset on how we work is now it's become PM can be the builder himself, themselves. So you can get your hands dirty, hands-on on building whatever features you can think of. Even now, I feel like prototyping the feature that I have in mind to solve certain problems, it's quicker rather than I had to go to Notion, write the PRD, share to the engineering team. It will may take like 2 sprints. So I just like what I did at the moment, like I spot some low hanging fruit issues. I fix it, I write a PR, and the engineering team will try to review the PR. And if it's work, it works. If it's not, it's not. Just part of learning. But then if need improvement, we can bring some more long-term solution to that. But then so the ability to address users' problem is faster, meaning that the ability for you to learn as well getting faster. So I think that's the biggest shift in how you actually build product. Yeah.
Can I add one more thing from myself just
Yes,
to
sure.
elaborate? I agree 100% that PMs now can send even the draft PR, but we call it industrialization phase or maturity phase when engineers actually industrialize your solution. Maybe it's not best in terms of performance, maybe it's not the best in terms of security or something else. So you can build the prototype still early maturity phase, but if engineers can use it as a draft, it's better than writing PDR for sure, because they will use it as a first draft. And I just got very specific word that I like, just industrialization. It sounds cool, maybe because I've got automation background, but yeah,
Sure.
that's the way
Right.
how it will work better and more efficient. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Matvey and Razii.
Awesome. We move on to last two questions. So, speaking about PM and all of the things that we do, we mostly interact with metrics, right? In terms of like this current AI wave that we are having, what does a good AI KPI look like for both of you? Like the outputs, the probability, or like anything?
Oof. Um, I need some time to think because
No,
I've
it's
got
okay.
very straightforward answer. I'll answer. So my personal feeling is how efficiently you use AI, because you can spend a lot of money on credits on everything and your solution is great, but it just doesn't fit your unit economics. So that's my main KPI, maybe because I'm running startup, but I need to think deeper, so a little bit. So that's my first impression. Right? Maybe you'll pick it.
Got it. From mine, actually, we are also a startup, but I feel like currently my company is on learning stage, so we don't really care about cost at this point. Like I think
Mhm.
2 months ago, I spent like what 220,000 USD just for R&D, R&D. So, but that will be a problem in the future when we hit more usage. But I think now that because this generative problem with generative solution, uh, of course, required some other measurement on how we want to measure success itself. So I think the most basic one is making sure that you have evals in place, even though it's not on the production, at least for every prompt versioning that you try to improve, you always test it. You need to always compare it to the previous version that you had in terms of quality, accuracy, efficiency in terms of token usage, whatever. That is become part of, and it's actually a technical KPI, but now it's also being owned by the product manager because most of the time the one who wrote the prompt is product manager, which is not there before. So I think that's one of the additional uh, like metrics that you want to track on top of other metrics that you already know. Yeah.
Yeah, and two more from my side. The performance matters. So I I tried to rethink a little bit what solutions we provided and how we measured the final result. So if you take recommendation system as an example, so how much time it takes to provide the output, right? So we've been measuring different algorithms and the ways how it worked in order to find what will be the better for user. So performance and quality, obviously. So you can run some interview tests and measure the quality feedback, but you can also make it in terms of quantity. So how, again, how the result works in terms of speed, or I don't know, the anything else. But nothing special. I've seen many good resources with the KPIs for AI solutions. Maybe we'll share it afterwards, but it's just from the top of my head what I've been thinking about. So using my previous experience.
Interesting. So it's more of a efficiency and how we actually, um, you know,
So, yes.
boost the
So
productivity
the
with AI.
yes.
Moving on, Kashila.
Yes, so the last question from me is what's the simplest way to know whether a user problem should be solved with AI or not AI at all?
Mhm.
Oof. So did I get it right? So you want to validate that AI could be a solution for the problem, right?
Yes.
Yes, right.
Good question. I think there is no very specific answer. It's more about return of your investment. So if you know that the solution will optimize the user process in terms of the how many steps they are doing, they will achieve it quick. So what their goals. Maybe the user experience will be better. So because you've created the magic button that user presses and receives the magic at the end. So uh, if you feel that uh, the problem worth exploring the most optimal solution, then maybe you should try to apply AI. But again, what will be the cost of the solution? You will start with something simple. Maybe you'll create a prototype, and after that, you can put more and more efforts. Just as an example, the friendly startup is working on the automation of design processes, and they put a lot of efforts to optimize very specific needs. And I think the way how they measure, they are trying to understand what are the most common use cases, prioritize them, and address them with any solutions. As an example, image upscaling. Any Gemini, any image generation platform, they provide sometimes low quality pictures. So now pictures are generated more and more and more. So they started to address this very specific problem. So upscaling images. Can you do it without AI? Yes. So you can ask your designer to upscale your images. It will take hours. With AI, it takes seconds. Maybe it worth exploring, but I would suggest to use the common prioritization frameworks for that. So let's take ICE or RICE as an example. So impact, confidence, efforts. So your return of investment and how much users are interested in them, and what you'll be solution. So what you're proposing. So maybe that's a good answer, but that's what I came up with.
Okay, yeah. How about you, Razzie? You got your opinion?
So to just add on that, if I were to assume that whether Gen AI is the solution or not for the problem, I'd say I'll start with whether the problem is highly contextual, I mean highly context dependent, meaning because if it is highly contextual, required to or surround the problem, and you couldn't really map out all the patterns that you want to address using traditional software engineering. So probably AI might the answer. So for example, now there are a lot of AI agents. Basically, what it works behind the scene is you have a main agent in the front, which is the chat interface, but then you give it sub agents or many tools that's basically executing a function that we built for traditional software engineer. It's the
Mhm.
same exact solution behind the scene, right? But what becomes different is because we know that each user that come to our product have different contexts, and we don't have the capacity to actually map out all the context to each of the solution that we built behind the scene. So that we're expecting users to be able to share their context, and we are expecting the AI to route which solution that it can come up with to solve the problems. So I think if it's very highly contextual, so leveraging the reasoning capability of a Gen AI might helpful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Matvey and Razii. So, we go to our participant. There is a question for you, Razii, from the Muhammad Sulaiman. Hello, Muhammad Sulaiman. You can open your camera or you can raise hand for your question. Hello, Razii. Is it possible to create acceptance criteria in our PRD with AI? Because based on my experience, if we use AI to make some AC, some of scenarios output is not similar with our expectation. Okay, go ahead, Razii.
Got it. Actually, Matvey should answer probably after me. So there's a few things to do this, right? Like for example, I'm currently uh, trying to do a new approach in doing prototyping. So I do Figma Make to prototype, because with Figma you can add the design system, so you can build on top of the same design system. And then I just saw an update that now Figma can also connect to Notion. So
Mhm.
based on of the generated code, it can create acceptance criteria. I can share the link after this. I just saw it, I think, some time ago on LinkedIn. But it's the idea. So it has more context on what you actually prototype and what you expect it to be actually implemented based on the prototype as the acceptance criteria. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, because I also do a lot of cursor vibe coding, and it's even better because in cursor the agent has all the access to the code base, and you can also add like to the agent.md, or you can add to the cursor.md rules on how you want to build accession criteria. So you can do something simple, like when you try to prototype things, like, okay, given all the things that I did in this branch, please write me the test script. Even it's beyond accession criteria, you can actually ask it to create a test script that it can run by itself. So again, it's always about like what context that you have, because prompt can only be so good given the context that you can give to it. So the output will be very dependent on that as well. That's probably my answer. But maybe I think you have answer for that as well.
I
Okay.
actually very satisfied with your answer because I would suggest very similar process that you suggested. So the basic one, if you're using, I don't know, any tool where you're managing your acceptance criteria, like Atlassian toolset, as I said, or Notion AI, they've got some writers, but they are not very good in terms of writing PRDs, right? So they don't know anything about that. So maybe that's an answer why you can't generate the acceptance criteria. So obviously you need to optimize your prompt. And what I actually do when I mention the acceptance criteria automation, I use Cursor to write the markdown, which will be copy pasted to the Notion because Markdown is very well accepted by Notion, so it will be formatted in a similar way. So that's how I can put the information inside the Notion. After that, I can process it for different purposes, like simple release notes. I don't care how they written. But what is more important that if you do the right process with a in a cursor, then you're not just writing your acceptance criteria for developers. You actually can generate test cases and unit tests because that's your acceptance criteria checklist, right? So you're not just asking guys to please follow these acceptance criteria. You can even create a PR where you suggest these unit tests using the acceptance criteria that you've got in your repository. So I suggest to optimize the prompt and maybe try different tools. If you generate acceptance criteria texting, just sending text to the chat GPT without the proper configuration of your system prompt and user prompt, maybe it will not work well. Obviously, there are many tools and solutions that helps you to do that, but why you can't recreate that? So you will learn something new, Mohammed, and maybe you will find new process that potentially can automate not only acceptance criteria, but also something else. In general approach, 100% agree with Razi's points.
Okay, thank you, Matvey and Razii. The second question from Kevin for you, Razii. Razii again. Hi, Razii. Sorry that this might be out of the topic, but talking about the nature of problem is quite interesting. You mentioned that most of the time it's not problem of products, but problem of process. The issue is that it's easier to blame the products rather than blaming the process or system or even the people running the system or not running it. Some stakeholders prefer to change the products rather than changing the system, which then solve the root cause. Do you have any strategies in convincing stakeholders or proving that it's problem by system, not products? Go ahead, Razi.
I feel the pain in this comment. So Kevin, we are with you. Sorry, sorry for jumping in. Go on.
Right. Now from a process problem becoming a stakeholder management problem, huh? Right. First of all, you need to, of course, you need to prove that it is a process problem. And the way I did it usually, okay, you need to always trying to understand what is the current process, and then you need to point out what is the bottleneck. And because I'm a visual person, I draw diagram or flowchart a lot. What I did usually, okay, I try to talk to as many people as possible, because even sometimes within the same team, whether it's a marketing process, HR process, operation process, when you talk to different people, they come up with a different type of how they usually do things. It's actually the big sign that, okay, the process is not there in the very first place, right? And I usually come up with all those things. Like I try to map out, especially if there's some conflicted information that you gather, and then try to point out which part that has become a bottleneck, and then you can then come back to them again and discuss what could be the possible to improve that. Of course, yeah, you gotta blab a lot. It's a simple reason for them, right? Okay, the product doesn't work. The product didn't go the way I want it to be, which is usually it's just simply because, for example, you talk to like five different marketing people in the marketing team, and they kind of use the product, each of them differently. Of course, their needs will be different, right? So yeah, first thing first is you need to map out the current process, and then try to point out which part is the bottleneck and show it to them that this is the problem. And then in diplomatic way, you can say, like, okay, sure, I can prioritize to like capture or include whatever problems or feature requests that you have. But then you can also argue back that even though I did this, it will not solve this bottleneck that must be solved in your current process. So really bring out the flow in the process itself up to their face. I think that's the answer.
It's a pretty comprehensive one.
Can I add one more thing,
Yeah.
just as a
Yes, sure.
practical suggestion to Kevin? Because Kevin, we're all with you. We feel your problem because it's a very common thing. I've got the rule, so any product follows the process. So again, my background was automation of processes, like physical processes, with a robotic lines and let's say any equipment that's being used. So you always ask yourself, like, what do you want to build? So explain me the process, and we will build a product that does that. So if you've got very specific bottleneck, as Razii said, we've been applying theory of constraints. Maybe you guys know, but from the automotive, it's a very, 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 very well-known theory which been using by Toyota and any other automotive giants and enterprises in order to optimize bottlenecks in their assembly line. So imagine that your process, Kevin, that you asked, it's some sort of line, step flow, as Razii said. Then what is the main bottleneck and what will be the financial KPI or main metrics that will be improved after you will solve this bottleneck? So use it in order to communicate with stakeholders. If it doesn't help, sometimes it doesn't help, but at least you tried. If in a very diplomatic way, how Razii suggested, you can explain what benefits you will get. If it doesn't work, then at least you tried your best. But product always follows the process. So I've been assembling vehicles and the software, building software for it. So if the vehicle is changing, then you're changing your software, right? So yeah, like
Yeah,
depends on
right.
what you want to build. Yeah.
Yeah. Another practical answer would be sometimes you don't have to solve it yourself, especially if you are still in IC or whatever. Like my latest weapon will be I just escalate to my superior. That's it. Let's the higher up debate.